As we learned in part 2 of Siege, the documovie, beginning aggressively in the 1940s, cultural Marxists and advocates of socialism openly discussed how they would use what they called propaganda to brainwash the American people. Their openly stated goal was to weaponize psychology and deem as mentally ill anyone that disagreed with their quest for bigger government, redistribution of wealth, and opposition to communism. In part 3 of this documovie, you will learn how they also plan to use psychology to characterize as mentally ill anyone that opposes globalism and defends national sovereignty. And if you dare to disagree with their lie of man-made global warming as an apocalyptic event, they might even charge you with a crime.
Some of the millions of people around the world who do not believe man is responsible for global warming could soon be facing more than just mockery from the left. President Obama's top lawyer admits the government is considering much more forceful action. Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen tonight on the growing campaign against politically incorrect thinking.
Testifying before the Senate Judiciary Committee, Attorney General Loretta Lynch said Wednesday the Obama administration has directed federal law enforcement to investigate whether big oil companies and other so-called climate change deniers should face civil racketeering prosecution.
Under President Obama, the Department of Justice has done nothing so far about the climate denial scheme.
Any federal action against opponents of the administration on climate change issues would evoke parallels with the IRS scandal of 2013, when it was disclosed that officials at Internal Revenue back in early 2010 had targeted conservative and Tea Party groups for additional scrutiny in their applications for tax-exempt status.
You will also hear exclusive audio clips from an international conference on globalism, in which the speakers refer to conservatives, Christians, and patriotic Americans as demons, neurotic, a threat to society, promoters of white supremacy, and promoters of a slave economy. We will also examine how the socialists and globalists are using environmentalism through what is called sustainable development to destroy free market capitalism, which is built on private property rights. Sadly, their ideology is very similar to that of Hitler's Third Reich and his Nazi ecology that led to the death of 6 million Jews and 5 million non-Jews. Part 3 of Siege, the documovie, begins right now.
This is a Brannon, Howse, and WVW Broadcast Network documovie, Siege. The clear and present dangers pushing America to the brink of a Marxist Islamic revolution, civil war, World War III, and globalism. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howse.
Worldwide social justice is another name for global socialism or global governance. Stabilizing world population for the environmental globalist means abortion on demand, population control, eugenics, and active euthanasia through socialized medicine that allows for rationing of healthcare. In order for these radical ideas to be implemented by the socialist and the Marxist, they need to target the educational system and media with social justice propaganda, also known as environmental justice. As far back as 1948, plans were being laid to use the psychological manipulation of behavior modification to coerce individuals to give up their commitment to individual rights, the free market system, and national sovereignty in favor of world citizenship. In 1948, the National Association for Mental Health declared, quote, let me give you this quote, "We owe the animals not mercy but justice, and the debt often remains unpaid in Europe, the continent that is permeated with Jews. It is obviously high time in Europe that Jewish values on nature should be expelled from Europe."
Get rid of them. Yep. So this is the, this man here is the father of what we call environmental ethics. Super anti-Semite.
He said,
and
quote,
this is Hitler's favorite philosopher.
He said, quote, "The fault lines with the Jewish view that regard the animal as something manufactured for man's use."
Yep.
He went on to say, quote, "These are the effects of Genesis 1 and generally the whole Jewish way of looking at nature."
Yeah. It's amazing. These are amazing quotes. And he believed it, and Hitler loved this guy.
What we're really headed toward is Agenda 21, now called Agenda 2030, radical environmentalism, the end of our private property, the persecution of Christians and Jews, international socialism. We've seen this before. It was really what was going on with the Nazi Holocaust.
Mm-hmm. Very similar.
It's just being repackaged.
It's just repackaged, and it maybe even be worse before it's all said and done, yeah. Because it's getting to be so developed now. Things are getting...
Well, and we're going to get into that. I mean, they use trains and they use the gas chamber to get rid of the people that were the source of all suffering and oppression and the blight, the Jews. This
bacteria.
Yeah, the bacteria. Mm-hmm. This time they're going to use, I believe, they won't have to use concentration camps per se. I think what they'll use is a regime of a universal health care. And they'll just euthanize you by depriving you of health care.
It's looking dangerous.
It is.
We're living dangerous, serious times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll get into that and more in our next broadcast. Today, the globalists seek world domination. And once again, the capitalists and those that reject the idea that man is to serve nature must be dealt with one way or the other. Sustainable development and radical environmentalism sees man as a blight on the environment. Ironically, they see themselves as gods. But the little people are a blight. Thus, they seek to take away private property from its rightful owners in order to create biospheres and parks or planned communities. The globalists see abortion on demand and euthanasia for population control. Universal health care or socialized medicine must become a reality globally so that the almighty state can determine who is valuable human resource to be preserved through medical care, while those deemed to be the opposition to the global paradigm are quietly and neatly exterminated through the rationing of health care. Sustainable development masks all manner of tyranny, oppression, murder, socialism, and global governance. Many Americans do not want to repeat the mistakes of past nations that have been ruled by socialist, communist, or fascist dictators. Nor do they want to implement here in America the philosophies of communist China or the former Soviet Union. However, unless Americans educate themselves to the deceptive propaganda and masking terms now advancing Agenda 2030, sustainable development, and globalism, their children and children's children will be left asking, how did this happen? Thank you for watching Part 3 of Siege, the documovie.